everybody for joining tonight. Very happy to see such a good-sized group here to talk about this. This is our final meeting about for this round of our early, just initial show you what information we have and get some perspectives on how we might want to be thinking about regulations on short-term rentals. We've had one meeting in each of the districts of the county. That just seemed like a good way to make sure we're covering the whole area that we need to cover. And I'm just going to give a little bit of a background on how we got here, why we're here today, and then turn it over to Kathleen Kilgariff, who is a planner in the Community Development Agency and is the project manager on this effort. So I'm also realizing I didn't introduce myself. My name is Sarah Jones. I'm the acting director of the Community Development Agency for the county. And what our department covers is a lot of functions that end up getting tied up very much with a lot of things that I think are important to you, but specifically tonight, the short-term rental issue. So we have planning, we have building, sustainability, housing, and environmental health services, which all get touched in one way or another by this issue. And, Kathleen will go over sort of some of the background and the history of Marin County's engagement around the issue of short-term rentals. But the reason that we are digging into this at this point in time is very much because while we've looked at sort of the good neighbor aspects of it, some of the operational aspects and the revenue tax aspects of short-term rentals, what we haven't really dealt with at all in the county is the matter of short-term rentals. And by that, we are specifically talking about residential short-term rentals, which is, somebody's home or a room in their homes that they are renting out to visitors for, a period of less than 30 days is the technical definition, but it's usually more like a few nights or maybe up to a week. And we haven't really engaged around the issue of that as a land use or activity in a residential community. In some cases, like in Dillon Beach, these are communities that are very much primarily visitors, and the homes there are really used as visitor accommodations to a very large degree. In other parts of the county, the homes are really within residential neighborhoods, and we are working to understand what it means for communities and what it means for housing supply and housing affordability in the county, that this new option for how people use their homes has emerged. And when we talk about affordability, it kind of goes both ways. On the one hand, it might mean that there is a home that could otherwise be used as a place for someone to live, that instead the owner is renting out for visitors, and that's affecting housing prices. On the flip side, short-term rentals, we recognize very much, do provide a way for people to deal with what are very high housing costs in this county. So this is really not a clear-cut issue at all. We are, as we think about this, we're not coming to this with a view of short-term rentals are a problem, they're bad, something we have to, really pull back, get rid of, whatever it is. We are looking at it from a standpoint of, we are doing a lot of work right now in the county on housing planning. I'm sure you've heard about our housing element. And one of the things that's emerged around that is what's going on with our existing housing stock. So what does the option of short-term rentals mean for the supply of housing in Marin, for the affordability of housing in Marin? And that's sort of the lens that we're looking at So now I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen. We have a presentation. Now, the way we've been handling this presentation is that we start with a lot of presenting the information we have thus far about the state of short-term rentals in the county. And then we've been giving people a chance to ask questions of clarification about that. Now, I've got to say, the questions of clarification pretty easily grow into discussion. And, often we have to kind of pull back on that because the next part of the presentation is about more policy issues and the kinds of guiding principles, sort of framework that we might want to think about as we pull together, potential recommendations on changes. So I'm going to let you go with that, and when we do have a chance to take questions and have discussion, you can put them in the chat or raise your hand. So I will now. Do you want me to share? Do you want me to do the share, Kathleen?
Yes, please.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Let me get into this. You'd think I'd be quicker at this by now. Here we go. Okay. Is that working?
It's showing your presenter slide.
Okay.
So,
Let me
go to display settings up at the top, and then
thank
the
you.
caret will allow you to. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks, Jen. So Sarah just gave the introduction. Again, I'm Kathleen Kilgariff. This is just a quick little slide with our agenda for the evening. As Sarah previously mentioned, introductions, overview of short-term rentals in the county. We'll help discuss guiding principles and then next steps and conclusions. Next slide, please.
Sorry, before I do that, I don't know, Stephanie, if you want to say a few words, or if you don't want to, that's cool too. Got it.
I didn't see her on my screen. Did she shake her head?
She shook her head. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, let's keep going then. So next slide. So our learning session goals for the evening, we want to provide you a quick history of short-term rental regulations in the unincorporated areas of the county, introduce STR data collected to date, discuss community visions, priorities, and share next steps in the process. Next slide. So here's a little background on short-term rentals. The Marin County Board of Supervisors approved our first set of short-term rental regulations in 2018. These regulations established good neighbor policies to alleviate short-term rental impacts on surrounding communities. It established a third-party monitoring system provided by Host Compliance, where folks can submit any issues or complaints associated with short-term rentals. It required that folks get a business license and a transient occupancy tax certificate to operate said short-term rental. And as part of the good neighbor policies, it required that any short-term rental operator identifies a local contact person who can then respond to any emergencies or issues that arise as it relates to any short-term rental complaints that folks had. The idea was to really just connect neighbors to one another so that you could really work through issues that arose in real time, recognizing that that isn't always possible, but that was the goal. And then in May of 2024, the Board of Supervisors adopted a moratorium on new short-term rentals in West Marin. So this doesn't actually impact Mill Valley, but it does affect folks that are operating short-term rental or want to operate short-term rentals in the western area of the coastal zone, San Juan, Mill Valley as well. Next slide. This is the Measure W area in orange. As you see, Mill Valley is on the eastern side of the county in yellow, so it falls outside that moratorium area, but is still subject to short-term rental regulations that are currently in place in our Marin County Code. Next slide, please. Next. So here's some short-term rental data. So when we started thinking about short-term rentals, we wanted to understand this picture of the county. What are we currently working with? So we looked to how many residentially developed properties are located within the county. In East Marin, where Mill Valley is located, and also, you know, I should say Mill Valley is an unincorporated area in District 3, but you also have some portions of Sausalito, Tiburon, so I shouldn't just say Mill Valley, but in Southern Marin. I'm really gonna have to ask that you can mute yourself because I'm hearing a lot of extra noise. But so there are 17,792 developed properties in the eastern portion of Marin County, with 23,053 as a total. This is solely in the unincorporated areas, just to clarify. And then we have 27,573 units that are used as residential units. We also wanted to understand the differences between our single family homes and our multifamily homes. Multifamily units provide more affordable housing options generally, and also can include accessory dwelling, or, you know, those who have more than one unit on their property could also include those who have accessory dwelling units, which is also a way that some folks use short-term rentals. They may live in the main home and rent out the accessory dwelling unit, or the opposite, living in the accessory dwelling unit, renting out the main home. So we just kind of want to understand what that housing stock looked like. We have 21,187 properties that are developed with one unit. And we have 1,866 properties that are developed with more than one unit. Next slide, please. And then we're looking at short-term rentals where they're located. 621 are located within the West Marin area that I showed you on that previous map in orange, and 252 are on the eastern portion of the county, for a total of 873. Next slide. The next few slides are just an overview of our districts that we have. There are 5 districts within the county of Marin, and then it breaks down short-term rental information by these districts. So this is District 1. Next slide. District 1 encompasses the unincorporated areas of San Rafael for the county, for our work. And about 1% of parcels are used to short-term rentals in this area, for a total of 33 short-term rentals. Next slide, please. District 2, San Anselmo, Kentfield, Greenbrae, Ports Fairfax. Next slide. These areas have 1% of developed parcels used as short-term rentals. District 3, this is the one that we're hosting tonight. As you can see, this is Marin City, Mill Valley, Tiburon, Sausalito. And here's the breakdown of short-term rentals by communities. So we've got 143 in Mill Valley, for 3% of all properties developed with residential units, 4 in Tiburon, 8 in Marin City, and 2 in Sausalito.
So just to break in, sorry, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Some of these numbers might not. They might leave you scratching your head a little bit. These are the so these are, first of all, the registered short-term rentals. You know, people might be operating them short-term rentals without having registered with the county for a business license. So that's one piece of it. And also, you know, we did work with the information that we got from the Department of Finance, which captures pretty much everybody who has a business license and is paying transient occupancy tax. So so we needed to try to winnow down to the residential properties. So that's why these numbers might not quite jive with your personal experience. And I see that Stephanie has a comment on that.
Just a quick question, a reminder that these are, let me see if I understand, these are in the unincorporated parts of Mill Valley and Tiburon, Sausalito, correct? Okay, just
That's right.
want to
Mhm.
confirm that. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see that we have a column on the far right, and that has the number of parcels that are developed within the incorporated jurisdiction. So that's like Mill Valley has 5,038, but the unincorporated areas have 5,599. So that's the difference between those two columns. But just as Sarah noted previously, this is one of the areas that has a large number of short-term rentals based on the comparisons that you just saw. 143 registered in Mill Valley, and we have about 230 in the eastern portion. So a large portion of those properties that are operating short-term rentals are located in District 3 when it comes to the eastern side of the county. Next slide, please. And then this is District 4, West Marin area. And this is the breakdown by community in District 4. We've got 31% of properties used as short-term rentals in Dillon Beach, down to 0% of the properties in San Quentin used. And as Sarah noted, these are all those that have registered with the county. Currently, the Department of Finance has identified that there are 85 non-compliant short-term rental operators. Next slide, please. And then District 4, which is District 5, pardon me, which is Novato. And so next slide, Novato has 20 short-term rentals for about 1% of the parcels used as short-term rentals in their community. Now that we kind of have a snapshot of what our numbers are related to our housing units, developed properties, and short-term rentals, we want to understand the rental market as well. Overall, these next few slides are just kind of showing that the long-term rental market does not generate as much money as someone who chooses to operate a short-term rental. Sometimes it can be a large difference between what you can get for long-term versus a short-term, and sometimes it's a little bit more significant. As you can see in Mill Valley, you've got $3,763 for an average monthly rent, and then for a short-term rental that's operated online on Airbnb or VRBO, you could look at something like $5,085 a month.
And just to break in again, this is a good time to kind of explain where we got these numbers from. So this is not really information that the county has the ability or the authority to track. So we're looking at some of the sources that are available to people online, and this is the information that's available to the public as well. We can, and in previous meetings, a lot of people have brought up that they don't necessarily feel like the numbers, particularly like what AirDNA picks up, which is a website that specifically tracks and is geared towards potential short-term rental operators. They don't, they're kind of had some questions about those numbers, and we are going to continue to find additional sources so that we get as complete and accurate a picture as we possibly can. I do want to point out, though, that as I say, this is the information that is available to the public. So a property owner who is trying to make a decision as to how they're going to use their property is, seeing this projection or sense of what their rents might be. And so I think that's
so sweet.
I'm sorry, can people please mute? And so I think that that's something that is important to understand, because when people are making those decisions around whether they're going to put a property onto the market for, long-term permanent housing or use it for short-term rentals, this is the kind of thing that they're looking at.
Yeah, and just to follow up that we have been receiving those comments that Sarah just mentioned, and I have been working with the Department of Finance to help get some more targeted information as a result of the feedback we've received. So that is in progress at this time. Next slide.
If we want to make a comment, am I supposed to be raising my hand on the reactions? Sorry,
Yeah, you know, this is a good question. I am actually just realized, so we had to switch over our meeting because there was a conflict with another one, and this is on a different platform than we were using previously, and I don't see that there is a chat option. Does anyone else see that there's a chat?
No, I noticed that too. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So please just raise your hand, and you'll be popped up to the top of my participants list, and then I'll be able to see that there's a question, and I'll just call on you when it's your turn to speak. So yeah, go ahead and but I mean, do you want to keep going, Sarah?
Can I just want to? This is for Dillon Beach, right? We're on the same like track because you said District 3, and then you said this is for District 4. So that
Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah. The focus of tonight's meeting is about District 3, and we do want to try to, make sure that that there's a chance for District 3 residents and property owners and other sort of District 3 stakeholders to engage with this tonight. So that's kind of the primary focus. I'm also wondering if we could try to just go through this portion of the presentation with these numbers, and then we can come back to people's questions and comments.
Sarah, it was my understanding that all these meetings were for all the districts for those that couldn't attend the other meetings. Is that correct?
Anybody is welcome to attend any of the meetings, but we do intend to focus on the district. That's the focus for the meeting.
She's certainly able to ask.
She is absolutely free to ask her question, but I'm also asking that we put it, that we get through the data portion of the presentation first.
Okay, so can we move through this slide?
Yeah. So this slide was up for quite a bit. So folks can take a look here, but this was just the information for West Marin. We can go to the next slide. And then this is a snapshot of the complaints that we've received through the short-term rental hotline, just broken down by different types of categories based on some feedback we've received from folks in our previous meetings. So we have our complaint types. We have the number, which is a total of 291. So we have them broken down by type, we have them broken down by year, and we also have them broken down by community. So we do receive a larger number of contacts about short-term rentals in Southern Marin in this District 3. We also receive a number in District 4. So it seems like that's where people are coming from today. So just going to touch on that. And then we also wanted to understand what other communities are doing in the area, recognizing that some communities are closely tied to the incorporated community or city or town that they're next to. So we wanted to understand what other folks are doing. And so Belvedere, Tiburon, Sausalito, and Larkspur and Corte Madera currently prohibit short-term rentals. San Anselmo and Ross allow short-term rentals, but with no specific regulations. Mill Valley, San Rafael, Novato, and Fairfax allow short-term rentals subject to registration and specific regulations. Next slide. So that's the end of our data overview. And now would be the time to raise your hand if you have any questions. I also want to say that if you don't really feel comfortable raising your hand and providing your comment tonight, you're more than welcome to email us anytime at str@marincounty.org. The last slide we will have that contact information, but just want to let you know that you can always contact us via email or give us a call. So I see the first hand raised is from Colleen M. Colleen, you can unmute and speak.
Yes, hi. I'm sorry I've missed other meetings, and I don't know if this has been specified before, but I'm looking at your Dillon Beach numbers, and the average daily rate is $642. Occupancy is 84% of the time, and the median monthly revenue is $12,500 a month. And as a Dillon Beach homeowner who does have her home on, I would love to see these numbers. I wouldn't even come close to this. And I think that I'm astounded by these numbers. My average daily rate is about $240 a month. My home is not 84% of the time. So I just don't know where this number is coming from, because if you go to the RBO and you look at the various different homes, there are a lot of homes that are not getting $642 a month, a day. So I'm confused with this number. I just want to state that. I don't know if anyone else has already said it in previous meetings. And again, I'm sorry if they have, but this number is way off, in my estimation, of experienced homeowner in the area.
Colleen, I'm going to ask that, and I really appreciate your comment, and you know, it's consistent with what we've heard before. You might not have been here when we started this meeting, but we have. Yeah, but we kind of have a limited amount of time tonight.
That's right.
And
I'm done.
so, okay, but actually I wanted to, you know, this is something that we've definitely heard. I'm going to ask that people who want to engage around the information that we have gotten off of this public website for Dillon Beach to bring that conversation into, you know, contact us separately. We can, you know, we can talk further. We can meet with you separately to talk further, but I really just don't want to take our time tonight around this.
Great, no problem. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thanks. So the next hand we have up is David. David, you can unmute and speak.
Hi, thank you for showing the data. I had a couple of observations. It felt like the data was leading to a conclusion or to some perspective, and it didn't really feel that you were providing two sides of that perspective. So as an example, one side is here's all the housing stock that exists. Here's all the percentage that are used for short-term rental. There was no mention of the economic impact of all those visitors into the locale and the revenue they bring in, the jobs that revenue generates, and the vibrancy that it brings to those communities. So from the perspective of like, we're just about presenting data, it would be great to show kind of both sides of the data. Additionally, when you listed the houses that were available for short-term rental, you framed it as if those houses, if not in short-term rental, would be exclusively available for long-term rental, which for the vast majority of houses, particularly in West Marin, that's not the case. Like a lot of times, the short-term rental is their second homes or something like that. The short-term rental is incremental to the existing houses available. And then finally, on one of the slides, you compared the revenue of a short-term rental versus the revenue of a long-term rental, which as somebody who short-term rentals their home would know, that's not the same. There's a huge difference in the cost basis for those two places. A long-term rental is without furniture, it's without utilities, it's without a lot of other amenities. A short-term rental, you have to cover furniture, a bunch of other amenities, increased insurance costs, and all the costs that come along with hosting someone in your house. So again, it's like there is a hands up, oh, we're just presenting data, but it's clear there's a specific narrative baked into the data. And I think in the interest of fairness, it would be great if you could show more data or show a fairer representation of the impact of short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thanks, David. And now the next person that has their hand up is Jen. Thanks for using the reaction button.
Well, thank you, David, for sharing that, man, right on point. A lot of what I wanted to say. I also thought when you were comparing the income, you know, the amount of work that you do for a short-term rental is nothing compared to a long-term rental. The amount of times that we have to be reactive on the spot, you have more leniency for a long-term rental. So the effort involved for a short-term rental should pay you more than a long-term rental. Also, if everyone in Dillon Beach, I can only speak for Dillon Beach because that's where my house is, but if everyone in Dillon Beach just owned their house and lived there, think about the limited amount of ability for people to have that experience to be at a beach for a couple days or a weekend. It's actually discriminatory if you don't have short-term rentals, in my opinion, because you say only the people that can afford your $1 million house out there or 2 million, you can have a house out there and enjoy that. Everyone else just has to do day pass. So that's not really fair.
So Jen, this is exactly the kind of thing that we're going to talk about in terms of the considerations we have. So I'm going to ask that we keep this period to questions and clarifications around what we just showed. And if people don't have that, let's move on to talking about some of those policy issues that you just raised.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's do what David said and share all the data. And talking about, I'd like to see the difference. It poses a question, how much Marin is pulling in from transient occupancy tax per month because of people like me and other short-term renters.
So we can definitely present the transient occupancy tax data, and there has been some analysis around the economic piece of short-term rentals by the Marin Economic Forum. In terms of the costs to someone to run a short-term rental, you know, that is certainly a big factor in people's decisions about, and should be something that they know and are looking into when they are making the decision about doing a short-term rental. We're just kind of looking at it from the stand, you know, we need to understand what is happening in the community around this issue. So if I see a few more questions, and I'm going to ask the supervisor to go first, and then we can, if the rest of you have questions that are clarification around the data, that would be great. Otherwise, I would really like to move on to the policy portion.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Hey, folks, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate there's a difference between beach communities that have traditionally had, recreational and visitor use, and then communities on the east side that are a little different, although not entirely. But I do want to say we're trying to figure out how to thread the needle. When you hear about communities like Stinson Beach, where teachers can't live there anymore and the schools don't have any kids in them, I mean, that's what we're trying to understand. But I don't want you to think there's a bias to prohibit short-term rentals. And I just wanted to say that. I totally get the distinction and why people have second homes. I have a second home. So let's keep moving and get to the policy issues. Thanks.
I think we should get to the policy part two, just because I think a lot of the comments we're receiving do tie in to our guiding principles. And I think if we present our guiding principles, we'll be able to kind of address some of the things that have been raised. So Sarah, if you want to go to the next slide, that would be
sure
helpful. And then we'll get to everybody else who has their hands raised, because this might change some of the comments that we receive. So our guiding principles, we'd love your feedback on them. If there's anything else that we should be considering, I just want to clarify that we are totally open to all the perspectives that are being shared, because ultimately, like, we want to prioritize housing supply and affordability and consider regulations in light of their effect on cost and availability of housing within individual communities. And this doesn't just go to making sure that there's homes for people to rent long-term. This is recognizing that people do have different ways that they afford to live in their homes. So it's not just someone renting out their home full time. It could be that they rent it out on an intermittent basis so that they can afford certain things. So like people have said, like some folks live part-time or use their short-term rental, well, use their second home as a short-term rental part-time, and they're used at other times. There's people who have accessory dwelling units that use them as short-term rentals. They live on the property. We just understand that there are lots of different ways people afford housing. We want to make sure that there's equity and access to economic opportunities, services, and activities. Like someone noted, the coast is beautiful, and we want people to be able to access the coast. We agree that that is something that is important. But we also want to consider environmental constraints such as water availability. Other environmental constraints that we've gotten feedback on are, fires and emergency response. We want to recognize that Marin County has historically provided vacation opportunities to the Greater Bay Area and the state. So it's not like we noted, like we're not trying to say that short-term rentals are bad and they need to stop. They've been around for a long time. We also want to understand the short-term rental market for not just the people who are operating short-term rentals, but community members. There is an economic impact on communities from short-term rentals. People can live in the community and help clean or fix up the house. There are people who rent and visit stores or restaurants. We do understand that, and we want to better understand that. We want to make sure that if we develop any new regulations, that they're clear, affordable, simple, and enforceable. And we want to ensure that short-term rentals are good neighbors, considering noise, parking, trash, and other neighborhood quality of life concerns. We plan to host additional outreach opportunities in addition to this learning session that we're having. This is really just kicking off the work to reevaluate our short-term rental policies. And we want to make sure that we are continuing to have like robust outreach as part of this. We want to have additional stakeholder engagement. We appreciate the perspectives and the varying perspectives that have been brought to these conversations. And we've identified some stakeholders that we'll continue to work with. And if you're interested, again, please send me an email at str@marincounty.org. But yeah, we want to hear from community members who operate short-term rentals, who don't operate short-term rentals. We want to hear from the local business owners, the agricultural community, housing groups, local associations, local school districts, emergency service providers, utility providers. So there's lots of people that we want to be engaging with this work, because we recognize that it's multifaceted and there's lots of perspectives and stakeholders at the table. And then we also just have to figure out the regulatory pathway. We're going to refine a detailed strategy and apply those strategies that have worked in the past in other communities. We are not the only people that are the only county that is looking into short-term rental regulations. It's happening up and down the coast of California. It's happening in our neighboring counties. So we want to learn from them, apply strategies that have worked. We also know that we'll have to work with the California Coastal Commission. There will have to be some sort of approval of our regulations for them to be authorized within the coastal zone. And we want to be able to bring a public review draft of any new policies to the public by spring of 2023. And so this is our final slide. If you haven't yet contacted us or want to be able to contact us, write down that str@marincounty.org. I'm the other person on the side, on the back end of it, so you'll be talking with me most likely. So don't be scared, share whatever you'd like. I'm really happy to talk with you about anything around short-term rentals. So want to be respectful of people's times and kind of wrap this up so that we can get to the remaining questions. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we can keep talking.
And also you can, if you go to the website, you can subscribe for updates and find a lot of information. So please do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
So the first hand I see, well, Stephanie, I do see that your hand's still up. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm just having trouble getting my hand down.
I'll
Sorry.
lower your hand. I'll lower your hand. Then the next person is, I see D. Oxford. D. Oxford, you can unmute and share your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm still not clear on what the goal of all this is. I mean, what was the impetus for starting to have these meetings? Is there some actual problem that we're trying to solve?
That's a good question. The problem kind of writ large that we're looking into right now at this point in time is around the housing issues in Marin County. And we're doing a lot of things to address that. We have, we have a whole plan going on around it, but one piece of that is to really dig into the various aspects of what's happening in the housing situation in Marin. And you can see from these numbers that in a lot of parts of the county, short-term rentals aren't a big piece of, what we have learned as we have managed to suss out these numbers is, it doesn't look like short-term rentals are a big piece of the housing stock in most of the eastern part of the county, but
right,
it was clearly, and it was clear
for a long time.
Yeah, and it was clearly emerging that in the western part of Marin, we were hearing and seeing a very different story where, in communities, there's been an increasing number, or has at least been felt to be an increasing number of homes in the communities being used as short-term rentals rather than housing for seasonal or longer-term residents. And so we were hearing that was one issue, was in addition to our overall housing planning, we were hearing a lot from West Marin communities about basically just a huge housing crunch and pretty significant proportion in some places of the housing being in this use. And so that was another impetus.
Those places that have a high.
So just let me, we are now visiting the issue and trying to assess what steps might make the most sense to address it. And one of those questions is, are county-wide regulations appropriate? Is something that is more focused on West Marin appropriate? We're really not, we don't know yet, but that's why we are having these conversations county-wide to start with, so that we can understand the scope of what we should be doing right now.
Well, I would argue that those areas that are high percentage of short-term rentals have been high percentage of short-term rentals long before Airbnb and VRBO and HomeAway came along. It was all done through small, either people doing it on their own or small local people organizing it, but they've been short-term rentals for decades and decades. This is not a new thing with Airbnb. So it sounds like we're trying to solve a problem that isn't a problem and hasn't been a problem for decades.
Okay, thanks for your opinion. Who's next?
So next we've got Jeff Pollock. Jeff, you can unmute and just share your thoughts.
Kathleen, thank you very much.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Good to see you again. I'd like to thank you and Sarah for conducting these Zoom meetings, and for county professionals circling back on this issue of the short-term rental ordinance and so forth. The concern I have, and a large number of my close-in neighbors here in unincorporated Marin in Tam Valley, are party houses. It's a segment of the overall short-term community. These large, opulent 5 bedrooms or more statement houses that rent out the entire house for over $1,000 a night. no owner occupancy, no host, no supervision. They've generated many complaints and calls for service to the sheriff repeatedly in the same night. And you know the statistics that I brought to our March meeting in 2020 when we went over this. What I would really like to see is anything in the new ordinance that specifically addresses this segment and has some teeth in the ordinance for enforcement, because they go well beyond garbage, trash, and noise, and is a real burden and a risk in the community. Nobody wants to have another Orinda happen, let alone on our street. So I'd like to join whatever group you have going forward to help carve this sort of section out.
Thanks. That's very helpful feedback.
Next, we have Anne Marie.
Thank you. I guess I have a question, but I actually now have a comment just directed towards the supervisor. I really appreciate that you guys are having these meetings to take public comments. So the last comment made by you did not seem respectful and kind of shuts people down from public comment. So I hope we won't have more of that. And I hope that you will work to encourage people to talk and provide comments and not shut them down. That said, kind of echoing, but building upon, I'm trying to get my head wrapped around the problem. And I hear that housing issues are a problem, not just in Marin, but nationwide. And it's something that all of us need to work towards. And the county has an ability to work to create solutions for that, primarily funding. But I don't see West Marin, where it looks like you're going, as being able to solve the county's problems on housing, no matter what you try to do out there. And I've yet to see with the data, and I'm hoping you have more, that really connects the dots. If the problem is housing and affordable housing, I have yet to see any data that's showing a nexus between that and short-term rentals, especially if you're talking about West Marin, where I haven't seen any figures on it, but I do want to see figures on the fact that the lion's share of the houses out in West Marin are second homes and have always been so. And so are you trying to change an entire community from something it wasn't to something you would like it to be, and hoping that that will address all of your countywide housing issues? Like, I'm not seeing you connecting these dots. And so I truly hope that you guys will make a better case for what needs to be done to create housing in Marin, and how we can all be part of that solution, rather than trying to divide our community by short-term renters and long-term rentals and wealthy homeowners and not so wealthy homeowners. So what can we all do together as a community to solve the affordable housing or housing issues in Marin would be really helpful. Secondly, on your data point, economic, I think it alluded to maybe you guys are going to look into more of the economic impacts, maybe the benefits that visitors, short-term rentals provide. Is that true? Is that a way, is that, you mentioned, I forget what you said, the Marin Economic Forum, is that more data that you guys can be providing to us so that we better understand the benefits provided to our restaurants, to our stores, to the many jobs that are provided by the short-term rental housing? So I hope you'll incorporate that. And then lastly, in your guidelines, it mentioned equity. And I just want to raise this issue about equity, because I think it's really important when it comes to short-term rental. People who rent their homes out for short-term rental purposes are doing it to make ends meet, are doing it to help pay the mortgage. And that by making it more difficult on them, you are truly putting a pinch on the middle class and pushing them into the lower class if you're going to make it not feasible for them to pay their bills. And so I really hope you'll look at the equity issue in terms of protecting our middle class and making sure that they have a means and an ability to buy these homes, which we know are expensive, and everyone's doing what they can to make it possible. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne Marie. And thank you to the other folks who were clapping their hands to echo the statements that she made. So I appreciate the feedback there. I'm going to move on to Layla Monroe. Please unmute and let us know what you're thinking. Layla, are you there? I'm gonna hop to the next person, and maybe Layla will come back or unmute. J. Nicholas Gross.
Hi, you can call me Nick. I'm sorry.
Oh, good. Okay. Thanks,
First of all, I appreciate you folks doing these hearings, and I apologize for not having attended in previous ones as well. So some of my observations are going to be comments and some are going to be questions. The first thing is my family loves the coast, and we've vacationed there several times, and we love it so much, in fact, that we bought a parcel and decided we're going to build a house on it. And then we always expected that we'd only use it part-time and that we'd have to short-term rent it in some way. And so it really is important to us to be able to have some kind of flexibility or some kind of utility for it in that respect. So I hope that is kept that way, because we've availed ourselves of those short-term rentals out in West Marin for more than a decade. And so we're hoping we can do the same thing. So the first question is there going to be some kind of grandfathering in or something like that if there's some kind of restriction or curtailment of which properties are affected? Okay, because sometimes, for example, rent control, they'll say, okay, this ordinance or whatever is enforced for properties built before XYZ date or whatever. So that's kind of point one. Is there going to be some kind of limit or timeline? The second thing is, I also understand too from what you're saying that you have a great appreciation for the difference between the different communities. There's places that historically have always been kind of mostly rentals, and other places in which there was a vibrant community there of real industry and people and commerce and whatnot, and therefore they're affected more by this differentiation between short-term rentals and long-term rentals. And so I hope that, again, too, in terms of how you end up dividing or creating regulations, you do have some sensitivity about, Stinson Beach maybe being different than Mill Valley, being different than Dillon Beach, et cetera, because they are very different communities. And the last thing I was going to say was, I feel that unfortunately it becomes kind of this dynamic or this polarization between short-term rentals and long-term rentals. And I guess what I would ask is that has there been any kind of analysis about this issue of impact? Does it make a difference whether there's one family living in a home 30 days a month, or if it's 4 families living there 4 different weekends a month, right? Is there really a significant environmental or consumption or impact, if you will, from those different uses? Okay. And so I'd like to have some analysis of that as well, because I feel like short-term rentals are demonized to some extent because the neighbors say, you know what, we hate them. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't see that there's some kind of demonstrable evidence that 3 short-term rentals a month is more of an impact, if you will, than a person living there full time. Okay, that's kind of the other observation, if you will. Anyway, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
And hi there, this is Layla Monroe. I'm so sorry I couldn't get off mute. I have 2 screaming children I was trying to wrangle.
No worries.
Take my turn.
Yeah, I was gonna I saw some activity. I saw the picture change. I was going to call in. Yeah, anyway. So go ahead.
Thank you so much. So my husband and I own and operate Smiley's Saloon and Hotel in Bolinas, which you all probably know is a very old business, has been a hotel since 1950. We also live full-time here, have 2 small children in the Bolinas School District, and I've been a board member of the Bolinas Community Land Trust for a number of years and very active with them. I think there's a lot of assumptions that I've heard about the nature of communities out here. In the 10 years, the nearly decade we've been operating this business, the change in the difficulty in finding staff, the change in our business has been dramatic. There is very little business here during the week because so many of the houses have changed to short-term rentals. So I do encourage collecting data about the economic expenditure in the location of these short-term rentals, but also comparing that to full-time tenant expenditures, because from our perspective, and it's not because we are a hotel, it's the competition piece is that's not an issue for us. We are fully occupied, we do fine. But the issue is the staffing and the nature of our community. When you see family after family after family pleading, begging because they're losing their housing and the house is then flipped into short-term rentals. So yes, this community since 1860 has had summer homes, and that is something that should remain. I don't think many people would be arguing to ban short-term rentals out here, but I have lived and have family in San Francisco. I grew up in the island of Maui, where there are short-term rentals, but they are regulated. There are either numeric caps on the number per community or per neighborhood, which I think is a really good way to do it. There's a process, as mentioned, where the incumbents can go through, we've been a short-term rental for X number of years, 50 years, 10 years. There's a grandfathering process. There's a stringent application process and oversight so that you have that balance. But again, on the staffing piece, I just want to emphasize how incredibly difficult it is to find staffing to run our businesses. I have 30 staff. They all live in West Marin, and I will do anything to keep them. We pay so much, and how difficult it is. I cannot employ people who drive farther than Fairfax. I have a number of staff who come from Fairfax because they cannot find a place. That's an hour each way to work as a bartender. So the economics are much more complex. I 100% appreciate the value of short-term rentals in a community as well, but it's much more complex than I've heard described in the meeting so far. So the main point I'm making is there is a very strong need for some kind of regulation, rationalization of this program. And I think that the way the county is approaching it is very thoughtful. And I think with additional data, a lot of input, I'm hopeful we're going to get a regulatory program that is very, similar to what has been done in so many of the communities around the state and country that are experiencing the same kind of problems we are. Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Meg Cadiz.
Hi there.
Hi.
I just wanted to share that it looks like to me that most of the participants are from West Marin and represent that area. And that's because we've been, just communicating with each other around this topic. And a lot of us haven't been able to attend some of the meetings that were previously held. I represent 18% of the Inverness rentals. I'm a property manager and I have 17 rentals. And I've been working and paying TOT for 14 years. So I can tell you as a homeowner, as a former summer person, as my grandfather was a summer person, I don't see the numbers on the homes that are not rented and that are vacant. I know you did have a data point for that, that houses are just sitting vacant. But I think that's more than the vacation rentals that are occupied in West Marin. So I think that'd be a really important thing to say. I live in Inverness and manage other properties and employ a staff of about 10 people that live locally. And I think that it's important to tell us too, and I know I think you did have this stat, but what is the percentage of houses that are unoccupied, that aren't even short-term rentals, that aren't being rented out, that are just sitting empty?
Thanks. We will add that into our list of data that we're going to keep searching for. We have received feedback in the past that occupancy is a tough thing to get to the bottom of, but we can look at information around like primary home ownership and who receives the primary home exemption to kind of understand where the second home or third homes are. So that is something that we can share in the future.
Yeah, and you know, our local fire department has that information, and I mean, in my neighborhood alone, there's, you know, probably 50% of the homes are unoccupied, not rented. You know, just so so that number, that's another piece of the puzzle of, you know, housing in West Marin. And in addition, we work really closely, all of the homeowners or rental property owners. My clients work with the local organizations, nonprofits, CLAM, et cetera, to help support them in ways, being on boards, you know, offering up space for retreats, et cetera, and donations. So we're all very active in our community. And so just making sure that, you know, that I would say most of the people on this call from West Marin, just wanted to point it out. And I represent 18% of the West Marin Inverness short-term rentals.
Yeah, just want to make a comment. One of the things that's emerged in sort of pulling together all that we've heard in the previous meetings, you all have the benefit of being the final one of this initial round, is just that a really key aspect of this, and by the way, this is consistent with what we were hearing from communities in West Marin about why the consternation was existing around short-term rentals, but that matter of investment in a community. And, you know, when you have so few homes, every property owner, every resident, you know, really makes a difference in the life of the community. And so we have heard from a lot of short-term rental owners, operators, property managers, et cetera, who really are, this is an investment in the community for them, and we recognize that. And then there's the issue that one of the commenters brought up here that we've heard before, which is about the short-term rentals that are really being used just full-time short-term rentals, you know, not really being not owned or operated by somebody who is invested and accountable to the community. And that seems to be a piece that we want to dig into a little bit more in terms of understanding what we need to address.
Well, I'm happy to help. I mean, again, with 17 rentals and my connection and, you know, conversations with Long Trong, the county. You know, I raised my family there. My family's been there in the 30s, and I've served in leadership roles in the community. And I would say most of my owners, all of them, do the same and have a very strong connection. So I don't know where that generalization is coming from, but it's really not accurate to the short-term rental scene in West Marin.
Yeah, I'm sorry if that didn't come across. I'm saying that there does that's come across really loud and clear, that there is that in that short-term rental scene in West Marin, there is a really strong investment in the community in that, and that is one, important angle of this picture, which is what we're trying to understand. But Eric has had his hand up for a long time.
Yeah, Eric, go ahead.
Okay. I represent somebody referred to the middle class here. My partner and I moved into Bolinas, bought a house, and with the idea and the full expectation that we'd be able to fix up the first floor studio and be able to rent it out on a short-term rental type. And Sarah, you referred to people being able to make the decision whether to do short-term rentals or not. I feel like the decision was made for us by the County of Marin. We were not able to get the space ready in time for us to get the license and operate it as an STR. So I feel like the decision was made for us, number one, and I question why 2 years. We were counting on having that income. It's not the kind of studio that has a full kitchen and can be rented on a long-term basis. Plus, the house is small enough that when we have visiting family, grandchildren and such, we need that studio for a guest room. And so we can't really do a long-term. And so it seems like there's varying degrees of this mandate that is possibly fair to some people and extremely unfair to others. And I recently read an article that Nevada allows short-term rentals with people who are living in the house more than 2 months or more a year. Why in Bolinas we can't do that at all? In Nevada, which is another part of Marin County, that can be done. Who made the decision? Can an appeal be made? And why 2 years? That's a long time. We may have to sell the house and move out because we can't survive for 2 years without having some income to pay the taxes, which are high in Marin.
So I'm going to answer just quickly the Nevada question, which is that's Nevada, the incorporated portions of Nevada, which is most of the city. They do their own regulations, and so the different cities are handling, short-term rentals and everything about land use separately from the county for the unincorporated areas. So that's why there's a distinction between Nevada and unincorporated Marin areas and unincorporated Marin. I think if we could talk offline about your issue, because I want to understand, I just want to talk separately about how it came that you were not you were not aware of the opportunity to get the business license. You didn't have to have the space ready to do that. But the question about 2 years, that was what we brought to the board for their consideration. We did want to have the time to, the moratorium went into place so that we could get some stability to the situation, address the concerns that we were hearing very loudly from a lot of community people in West Marin, but also give ourselves the time to develop recommendations for long-term regulations and bring them through the Coastal Commission. And so if we are ready before that moratorium period expires, we would replace it with the regulations, but the board approved the 2-year moratorium, which is the length of time that they're allowed to do.
I get that, but it's it doesn't help people who didn't get the license in time, were not informed. Maybe we were informed, but we didn't perceive it. We were new residences. We just moved in. We weren't aware of the communication, and by that time it was too late. So yeah, there's no appeals process, I guess, is my question.
There is not. That's sort of the, that's not something that can be built into legislation that the board passes of this type. I don't want to sound unfeeling. I can completely empathize with your frustration. We really did try to do, everything feasible to make sure that people were aware of kind of what was going on and what steps they could take.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Next, we have Peter Vaughn.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having this meeting. I'm just wanting to be brief, but share some comments as a host in unincorporated Marin County and Tam Valley. I have a 600 square foot guest house that I've been renting out short term for about 4 years. And I live in another house on the same piece of property with my wife and kids. It's a critical portion of my monthly economics to flow. I really depend on that income. And I run a tight ship. I think I have something like 350 round trip guests and not a single complaint from a neighbor. And I haven't had to keep any damage deposits. So it's been operating pretty well, I would say. I have a question though about the question of affordable housing is a complicated one. And I'm also a builder, and it's almost an oxymoron to say anything's affordable when it comes to housing in Marin County. Just today, I was working on revising the building permit to create a barn into a conditioned space and add some HVAC. And the county is charging the homeowner $7,500 to review 3 sheets of plans. That's not affordable. So, we're kind of talking out of both sides of our mouth. And I also have a question about the 10% short-term rental tax. A few years ago, I listened to Matthew Hunnell at the Civic Center discuss the way that tax comes into the county, and maybe it's changed. But at that time, he testified that the county of Marin just receives one check for all the money collected, all the revenue, and then it's up to the county. They send us these worksheets every month to break it down by which house, how to allocate it by rental. And it just seems so arbitrary, and it's so much money, and it just goes into the general fund. So my question is, how do you justify charging 10% for a rental that's less than 30 days versus something that's more than 30 days? Maybe you can enlighten me on that. But bottom line is I just hope to be able to continue to operate as I have. It's been really important to me and my family, and I'll continue to try to be a responsible host so that I can continue. And I think I understand the concerns about party houses and the situation in West Marin. I would submit that I don't think if, say, there was a ban on short-term rentals in Bolinas, that those houses would come back on the market necessarily long-term. It's a different market. A lot of people don't want to deal with long-term rentals right now, especially after a rental moratorium with COVID. If I had somebody not paying me rent for 2 years, it would be absolutely devastating. I would probably foreclose. So I can't even take that risk. So anyway, that's all I got for now, but I thank you very much. And thanks.
Thanks, Peter. And next, I have Randy.
Hi, this is Randy Knight, and we've owned and managed vacation rentals in Dillon Beach for over 20 years. And I want to speak specifically to Dillon Beach because I think it's a different animal compared with a lot of the rest of West Marin. It is extremely remote, up in the far corner. Very few people live and commute to work from there. There's really not a lot of full-time residents. There certainly are, but it's not very predominant in that neighborhood. So it's always been a resort community from its inception in the little village, and it's primarily meant for recreational use for people to come enjoy the beach and the beautiful views from the homes up on the hill. And I have to say that this moratorium has dramatically impacted people. There are people that have been trying to sell their homes that easily could have sold for over $2 million prior to this moratorium, that were on the market for months for hundreds of thousands of dollars less and not selling. It's seriously impacting people's lives. There are people that they want to retire now. They want to make some sort of move in their life, and now their hands are tied by this, or they just suck it up and lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are others that bought properties. I'm also a realtor. There are several that bought properties there with the intent to build and to rent them out, that now that they're nearing completion on their construction, can't pay for the house. And they don't know what to do. And I think that you should consider areas like Dillon Beach and maybe just a couple others, and find a way to relieve this moratorium sooner than another year and a half. It's just it's really a burden on people. Other aspects about Dillon Beach, if the people that own a vacation home there, most of them have owned them for decades, and it's been passed through down to their family, and they don't get used very much. So the homes that are just full-time vacation homes sit empty probably 95% of the year and are used a few times. There are some that are used more than that, but it's a shame to take a resort area that's so beautiful and limit it to people that can afford millions of dollars for a home there, rather than having thousands and thousands of people enjoying the area. You're limiting it to a few hundred, and I just don't think it's right for an area like that. I know that there's water issues in Dillon Beach, and there are two different water companies. One is handling it extremely well. The other one just can't seem to figure out what the heck they're doing. I know that they have implemented premiums so that if you do have high water usage, you're paying a heck of a lot more, like 10 times as much water. So my recommendation to them would be to use that extra income to generate ways to produce more water, whether it's trucking it in or creating more holding ponds, find ways to have solutions to this and use the extra money they're getting from the high usage vacation rentals to accomplish that. I know that vacation rentals use a tremendous amount of water compared to a vacation home that's only used a few times a year. But again, charge us for it. Use that money for that purpose and help alleviate the problem. Another aspect that I don't think people really appreciate is the jobs that vacation rentals create. There's a lot of maintenance goes on with vacation rental homes, and there are cleaning crews. We have numerous cleaning crews and provide great income to a lot of people that normally would have a struggle creating that kind of income. And there's dozens and dozens of people that we support cleaning houses. And on a personal note, we own a home on the ocean, gorgeous home. Our whole retirement plan is to live off of that money once we retire, off of the income there, and then eventually be able to sell the home for a great deal of money as a very successful vacation rental that we've built. If that home is not a vacation rental, the value is less than half of what it is because of the income that house produces. So it's scaring us. We're getting to that age where we're thinking about this, and now all of these rules are coming into place, and limiting vacation rentals to a certain percentage makes a lot of sense. But in a place like Dillon Beach, I don't think 31% is all that high for vacation rentals there. About 50%, I can understand a concern, but at this point, it's the lifeblood of Dillon Beach. It's keeping the store open. It's keeping the restaurant open. It's keeping people employed there. They can't make enough just on the campgrounds that are there. So there's a lot of other aspects to look at here. So I just hope that you really take a full look at what impact this is having on people, and find a way to release this moratorium sooner. And certainly in an area like Dillon Beach, there always has to be vacation rentals. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Next up, Scott.
Hello, and thank you for hosting another one of these and for all the work that you've done. Hearing this makes me feel the same way I felt a month ago. And I know there's a lot of people on this call who are new to the call. And I think that there's a lot of people on the call who joined the call last time. I'm really glad that the supervisor's on. Oh, is she off now? Okay, thank you for thanks, Barbara. So I guess Sarah and Kathleen, my concern remains that you all and everyone who is working for the county is making a pledge and a commitment to be transparent and proactive and forthright with your data sources, with your paths to whatever decisions are being made, and that you're making a commitment in public in front of everybody to not just limit these to Zoom sessions, but rather to very open forums, which are certainly going to become very excited and exciting. But we've already heard from 3 people during this session tonight that the arbitrary decision by the county to affect the moratorium is economically impacting people who have made investments, whether they're a pure investment or whether they need to rent out a room or whether they need to rent out a second unit. And in the previous call, there were 3 or 4 people in the same situation. I still don't actually know how I got on this list to understand. Actually, it was our representative for our property, so thank her for doing that. But the county should reverse the moratorium immediately and put a notification in the next property tax bill. And if they want to put a moratorium on rentals or STRs, they should reverse it. Let all the people who are currently being damaged economically to get out from under that burden. And then if they want to re-implement some kind of arbitrary moratorium without any public input, then have the audacity and the forthrightness to do it next time in a property tax bill, whichever one gets, instead of sneaking it under God knows what veil to sneak it by. So I guess the question here is, Sarah and Kathleen, here in public, will you please confirm that you all and our supervisors are dedicated to making this a public conversation, and that's going to bring in all the stakeholders?
We are dedicated to making this a public conversation that's going to bring in all the stakeholders. The question of remote versus in person, there's very, some people love remote, some people love in person. We are hoping to have in-person opportunities at times in this process, because there are people who like to engage that way. I can't promise that everybody who will have a vested interest in this will participate, or that we will, be able to ensure that everybody is reached, because we can't, we can put our very best effort into it, and that's what we want to do, because we really do want to make sure that, first of all, that we understand where people are coming from, what the issues are. These sessions have been enormously helpful for that, and this dialogue will continue to be, and also, that's just part of that is part of our responsibility as county employees, is to make sure that we are putting our very best effort into engaging with the community. That is something that I feel very strongly about personally, and I also think is extremely important for the department that I lead. And it is also something that the supervisors want of us. And so that's, that is the commitment that I can give you on that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. And Kathleen, I'll actually cut you some slack because of Sarah's answer. I guess my only question, I guess
Kathleen is,
echo her answer.
So
Kathleen doesn't have a choice.
Yeah. Humor me on this. Humor me. Look, fortunately, knock on wood, I'm not in a situation where I have been impacted by the moratorium. We were represented, I'm remembering now, it was our representative, Sarah Butler, who proactively helped us get in under the moratorium. So thank you, Sarah Butler. But did anyone think to maybe put this notice in a property tax bill, which everybody gets, instead of however it was done, so that you've got 3 people on this call, other people? I mean, there's probably dozens and dozens and dozens of homeowners who need their STR income, who didn't get the moratorium, who are economically being damaged, not to mention the people who are trying to sell their places. So Sarah, in the spirit of you guys being proactive and thorough, what happened on the first pass of just sliding this thing in?
Well, we actually did a lot more outreach or notification than is required for an emergency ordinance, which is what the moratorium was. So, you know, that was with the view that we wanted to make sure that we could take the steps necessary for people to be aware. So Kathleen, you're going to have to fill in on this, but we did actually, Kathleen, you were tracking the specific steps much more closely. I don't want to put you on the spot since it was now a few months ago, but if you could describe the steps taken.
Yeah, as part of our outreach, there's like the legal requirements, right, where you have to put the notification in the IJ. So that was followed, but additionally, we had stories in the Point Reyes Light. We had them in the IJ, KQED. Sarah went on KWMR and spoke about the moratorium, which is the radio station out in West Marin. She was on KQED. The Department of Finance did mailings out to those who operate short-term rentals. It may not have captured everybody because, as we've noted, they do have folks who are not compliant. So that could be where it was missed. But we did a lot. We had over 100 people register for short-term rentals before the moratorium went into effect because of our outreach. So there was a lot of communications. We had well, I guess we only had that one hearing, but yeah, the way that the emergency ordinance worked, it really came quick, and we had to adapt and adjust, and we didn't have the ability to really plan out, like you're saying, to put it in the tax bills and things like that. We did a lot of outreach,
and there were two hearings, because there was the initial moratorium was 45 days, and then the board held a second hearing around the extension of the moratorium.
Okay, sorry that I started to interrupt. Okay, thank you for that explanation. Your approach to the way that you reached everybody assumes that people read the newspaper or listen to whatever radio you chose to.
Scott, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm actually gonna cut you off, because what we had committed to do, and I still need to follow. Still need to get this meeting scheduled, but we'll be scheduling it, is a separate discussion around the moratorium, because we really want to hold these discussions to get people's feedback on what we should be thinking about in terms of the regulations for the longer term, for any longer term regulations.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask to put that discussion to a separate meeting.
That's perfect. I'll step aside, Sarah. But again, the pledge here, the supervisor tonight, and Anne Marie captured it perfectly, shut one of the people down who is a taxpayer, who's a homeowner, who's being damaged by this very same moratorium. She shut him down disrespectfully. This is an open forum. How can that happen? By one of our leaders. And so I want to know, I think you owe it to us, everyone owes it to us, to put something on the County of Marin website about how this is going week to week, what the progress is, what the inputs are, and when everyone's going to have a chance to be part of a meaningful conversation. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, and I just want to touch on what Sarah noted, that yes, there was discussion around the moratorium for the District 4 meeting, and she put out, if you want to be notified, subscribe to the short-term rental page for sure, but we also are collecting a list of people that have emailed the str@marincounty.org email address saying that they are specifically interested in a moratorium discussion in District 4. I've got a running list right now. We had 13 people contact me last week. So if you want to be part of that, reach out to me. as well, and I'll put you on our targeted list. And now I see Janice has their hand up.
Hi, Scott, thank you for setting that up for me. That was my concern, was that, we didn't know that these meetings were happening. We didn't hear about them until last week. I've reached out to other short-term rental hosts in West Marin to see if anybody was aware that these meetings had gone on, and I have yet to talk to anybody that did. So, we're all registered and we pay our taxes. And I would just ask that we're have better communication. That doesn't seem like it would be difficult to do. Another thing, I just wanted to kind of challenge some of those numbers about your occupancy out in West Marin. We have a short-term rental in Inverness where the number was 81%. That number is more than double what our number is. And so I'd really like to see that broken down, or understand how you came to that number, because that's just unheard of. And then the other thing is, I just wanted, Meg brought up a really great point about second homeowners. And it's something that I have really felt is, I think there is a real assumption that second homeowners and people who operate short-term rentals don't give back to the community. And I can absolutely understand. Nobody loves a small town more than I do. And I think it is so important for everybody to contribute now more than ever, with how small towns in our country have, suffered over these decades. And I see so many people giving back in their own ways, serving on boards, donating. I would love someday to own a business out there and give back in that way too. So I see so many people giving back, and I just want that heard. And that, again, there are a lot of second homes out there that sit vacant all the time. And, the short-term rentals are a very small portion of the second homes. And I see them doing the town a big service. Instead of houses sitting empty for 28 days a month, those houses are filled with families that come in, that use the park, that shop at the Palace Market, that dine at the Saltwater, and hopefully donate to some of the local causes. So I hope you'll consider all those things. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, Jason.
Yeah, hi. Just sort of observation and question, but it really does seem like that there's very much not a one size fits all solution here, that there's absolutely going to be nuances to any policy solution. I think if there was some reassurance of your constituency that any policy framework was going to be sort of not in a one size fits all, I think you would maybe take the temperature down a lot. I think everybody that's so far that's been speaking, except for maybe one or two, have been basically West Marin STR operators, right? And so that should tell you something. You have a very active, engaged set of folks here. And it's very different in West Marin than it is in other parts of Marin. And I think there's a lot of fear that there's going to be a blanket policy laid down across all of unincorporated Marin. And I think, another side effect is if the county goes far enough, it may lead to a backlash and some unintended consequences, including a drive to incorporate some of these areas. So that they get out from under the thumb of the county. And I don't think that is actually a helpful direction for a lot of other reasons. But if you make it economically so painful that becomes supported by property owners, when they realize that the value, that the property values are being essentially impacted by a one size fits all policy, you know, it's gonna create a lot of stress. So my sort of, that's my suggestion, is that you provide that reassurance to people. And if that's not the case, you should probably say that right now, that there is going to be one policy, because I think then you're going to have about 10 times the number of people on these calls once they realize that.
So Jason, I'm going to give you, first I'm going to give you the answer that I need to give you, and then I'm going to give you my my perspective from years of doing this kind of work. My answer that I need to give you is that we are at the very beginning of this process. We truly have no predetermination about what our regulations are going to look like. And, you know, we're not kind of ready or, you know, have enough knowledge or understanding to say, you know, what form the regulations, if we end up recommending them, would take. But I have been doing this for a long time. I'm hearing a lot of things from people even before we engaged in this conversation. You know, it is of course very clear to us, and I think that we've conveyed that pretty clearly in you know, in everything we've said tonight, that we so truly recognize the very significant differences, not just between eastern parts of Marin and western parts of Marin, but even across the different communities in West Marin. And so we would be, you know, I think pretty remiss in coming forward with regulations that that do not reflect those differences.
Thank you. I think just saying that and reminding people of that, I think probably will, like I said, lower the temperature a lot, and you know, you can probably get more constructive feedback and work from the community, because you know, you'll have people realizing that it's not going to be a winner take all game.
Yeah, that's not what we're here for. If people, I appreciate your sharing that message too.
Yeah, thanks. And one I'm sorry to do this, one tack on is on the affordable housing front. It's a really difficult problem, and it seems like that is sort of at the root of what's driving a lot of this, is kind of like we're looking everywhere we can, trying to turn over every rock to find out where we can put affordable housing. And I know a thing or two about it just because I'm in the business. And affordable housing is a very, very difficult problem to solve. It's not, and that's why we're here. And it's about a 15-year problem at this point. And you know, the best way to make housing affordable is to build more housing. But the problem with building more housing is that there's all these other impacts. It's a very, very complex problem. That's why it's not being solved readily and easily across the nation, let alone in California. Just even with bipartisan legislation coming from the California legislature, as you know, you cannot mandate building of affordable housing without cooperation all the way down to the local level and of the elected officials in the city councils. And that's how we've built this country, for better or worse. And so it's going to be a very, very tricky thing to solve. But I think going after short-term rentals, for example, you know, sort of single-mindedly, which I don't think you're doing, but I think obviously that would be a mistake and a waste of resources for all the reasons that people are saying. But I think it is important that the larger effort around affordable housing be looked at, so that people can have this perspective of like, okay, this is a big problem. Short-term housing may or may not, short-term rentals may or may not provide some portion of this. But in fact, the goals of affordable housing are large, they're huge, and there are many intractable areas, around them. And so, it's sort of like we're trying to deal with a short-term rental issue, but really it's a housing affordability issue being masked as a short-term rental policy drive. And I think that's going to create a lot of frustration, again, in the community that feels like they're not taking away from affordable housing, right? And as your numbers showed, the other areas of Marin have very little short-term rental. And if you were to put the affordable housing up next to it, you'd see it has very little affordable housing too. So the problem is pervasive, and it's not easily solved just by keeping short-term rentals off the market.
So I'm gonna briefly respond on that. There is no one thing that's, first of all, there is no one thing that's going to solve housing affordability issues. And in the realm of short-term rentals, some of them are homes or properties that would never provide any kind of affordable housing. And some of the units that are offered as short-term rentals are accessory dwelling units or downstairs studios or whatever it is that could be serving as housing, as workforce housing, and as housing for someone. And so, but in terms of characterizing this, so yes, there is absolutely a housing supply and a housing affordability aspect to it. There's also as we have heard in communities in West Marin, pretty much other than Dillon Beach, but I have to say from Dillon Beach also, there are other aspects of the predominance of short-term rentals that I hear community members expressing points about in terms of how it's affecting community life. You heard it from one of the participants tonight. So it's a problem that has a lot of ranges. And what we're doing right now is we're trying to define we're still working on defining the problem
Sure.
that we need to resolve. So
makes sense, and
yeah.
and thank you. I would only just respond that so far, just taking this as a small sample, you have like maybe one or two people that have been voicing concerns about short-term rentals being a problem, and the rest of us are very, very concerned short-term operators feeling that that there's a sword dangling above our heads.
Yeah, and we need to hear from you, but we are also in other conversations hearing from others who might feel many of whom don't necessarily feel comfortable speaking out in the
in a public forum,
in a forum where the direction is so strongly in one way or another. So we hear from a lot of constituents in a lot of ways.
Speaking of that, we've got a few other hands that went up. Randy, as because of that, I want to be respectful of those who haven't spoken yet. So I'm going to go to Katie next.
Thank you. I know you're tired of looking at my face, and I'm going to just be very, very brief, but there are a couple of things I do need to say. And one is, I have, as you know, I'm a lifelong Marinite. So the changing demographics of all of our communities is painful to me. But I do want to say that I don't think it's just because there are so many second homes in communities in West Marin. Forget the short-term rental part of it, but there are a different set of characteristics and qualifications, if you will, of some of this different generation. And what came to my mind was the number of people, over a dozen that I can think of quickly in my head, who were second homeowners in Stinson Beach who were so generous with their time and their money, even though it was their second home. And so I don't think we're seeing that as generally today, just as a I can't even think of the right word, as a way people are behaving these days. So it's not just because they're short-term rentals. People don't tend to get as involved in their communities, it seems like. But I do want to just make one last echo about the fact that I feel what's going to be the result of any decrease in short-term rentals is the increase of the domination of the very wealthy and the elimination of normal workforce people who are able to come and enjoy whatever vacation area they have, where they can afford 2 or 3 days, maybe a week, could never afford a month or more. And so I need to continually bring that up because I am bereft at the few normal people that I see anywhere in West Marin and disappearing in all of Marin. But please, I hope that that is part of your discovery process too. So thank you for all your taking the abuse. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. And just want to say you got a lot of hearts, a lot of claps, a lot of people echoing that sentiment as well. So appreciate it. And again, we're not going to get tired of you. Keep coming, keep talking to us. Next I have Tim.
I know this is getting long, but I'm going to try to be brief. Can you hear me okay? I think I'm unmuted. Yes, looks like it. So I know a lot of hosts are honestly defensive because they're scared because this is, you hear regulation and I've been a part of some short-term rentals and a lot of them center felt also, and some things, it got really scary for people very quickly. And so people are obviously defensive, and I appreciate you guys being calm with everyone and sensitive to everyone's needs. I would like to say, in terms of what I understand, you're looking for ideas of how to regulate these things efficiently and what the community input would be. And I would tell you that hosts hate nothing more than bad hosts, because they're the ones that cause all of us the problems, if that makes sense. So, you know, it's 90% of us care about our short-term rental and take very great pains at making sure that people don't cause problems for our neighbors. I take it on chin all the time, because if I think something's going to affect the neighbor, I take it very seriously, and I'm not above throwing people out in the middle of the night. That just happens. But I know a lot of hosts, and I know some hosts that drive me crazy because they don't, and they're the ones that make everyone look bad. So there are things that I would ask that you consider in helping hosts be better hosts and helping us keep other hosts accountable. One, ask hosts how can you do that? And like, for example, you can require sound monitoring, not recording, but sound monitoring equipment on property. And that can be monitored by the county or by host, or be reported elsewhere that could be, you know, monitored. And bad hosts need to be suspended, ousted, whatever. Those things need to be in place, because those are the ones who get in trouble all the time. Like I was reported as San Rafael as having a party house, was a short-term rental, and it came up in a city council meeting. Fortunately, I was there because they were going on and on about this party, and it's my personal house and it was my party. It wasn't a short-term rental issue at all, but that's the kind of stories, and it gets turned around very quickly. So that and having cameras and things that you can require these things, that if hosts, I've noticed that hosts that don't care don't do those things. And then they can hide their head in the sand and act like they don't know that their party is going on. They don't know that there's 100 people there instead of 8. And those things bother the host as much as they bother everyone else, because we're neighbors too. And that's the other thing is you do need to be here. You can't be in Florida and then manage a short-term rental here. It's just not fair to the community where the short-term rental is. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. And also, we're looking at the county because we're running issues with the cities. And so, of course, we're nervous because we're looking at property we wanted to buy, and then we heard you guys are thinking about new regulations, and now that's, putting things we're concerned like, well, what could those things look like? So, as other people alluded to, these are business decisions for people that aren't always in business, and so just having stability and knowing and plenty of lead time for changes is what's important to us. So, and I think that you could assemble hosts that would help you do the enforcement very easily. And I would certainly be willing to do that. So, because it helps us all. It doesn't help anybody to have these things that become horror stories because of hosts that are absent and don't care. So anyway, that's it.
Thanks, Tim. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the short-term rental webpage that we have so that you can be informed of what we're doing in the county, since it seems like you're new into this side of things. So thanks. And next we've got Chris. Chris, when you have a chance, you can unmute and share your thoughts.
Chris has had their hand up for a while. I hope didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, let's. Oh, there.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. Let me see if I can. Here, I'll try and see if I can unmute you.
That's very strange.
Yeah, I can't.
Chris, maybe
Try
you want to
star
leave.
9. Try
Oh.
star 9 if it's an iPhone.
Sometimes the only thing that works is to leave and come back.
Okay, yeah, you'll do that, and we'll circle back to you. Anne Marie, similar to Randy, I do want to let those who haven't spoken yet have a chance. So I'm going to go to Lisa.
Hi there. Thanks for letting all of us just have a quick moment here. I'm Lisa Poncha. My husband and I own Stemple Creek Ranch in Tamales. We're in production agriculture, and my husband is from the area and grew up in agriculture, but we actually started our own business about 15 years ago, and we purchased the ranch that was next door to his family's historical ranch. And as you can imagine, buying a ranch in West Marin to be a rancher isn't exactly an easy financial proposition. But we have spent much of the last 10 years fixing up this property and using it for our agricultural business, and using the pasture and building a direct-to-consumer brand. And one of the ways that we've been able to do this is we actually have a couple of long-term rentals on the property, which is great because we have employees that are able to live there. But we also have 3 tiny little cabins that are short-term vacation rentals, and we stay there when we're out on the ranch. We don't live on the ranch. We have customers, and we have folks that we work with that we're able to invite out so that we can have chefs from restaurants and grocery stores and all of these folks that make our business possible come out to West Marin and see our business. And then when we're not using it for ourselves or for our family or for our business, we are able to use it on the other days as a vacation rental. And that revenue that we make has been so crucial to us being able to afford the property so that we could have it for agriculture, being able to invest in the property. And more importantly, even than that, is it's a marketing arm, for our agricultural business. And we're able to have people come out and stay and meet us and see what we're doing and see our cattle. And of course, we send them to all the local cheese producers and the bars and the restaurants and, all of the other local businesses. And it has absolutely been a very important part of our business. And I hope that we will be able to continue to do that.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, we've been spending some time here focusing on agriculture at the county, and that is something that emerged, the whole agritourism piece of it and the role of it within just the viability of agriculture. So that's a good example of you know, how this really plays into the economy of the county. So thanks.
And I did see that Chris came back. Chris, do you want to
I did.
try?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yay! It worked.
I'm now the little rabbit. Anyways,
Oh, okay.
well, I'm a very long time, many generations of Marin County, and grew up here, raising a family here. I'm a frontline worker, been here for decades as a frontline worker, and real estate across the spectrum. And the only thing that I would say is I appreciate that we continue to allow this forum to allow multiple approaches to trying to solve a problem together as a community and having open communication. That being said, whatever regulations, clearly West Marin and East Marin and unincorporated all have their individual idiosyncrasies. But what I just wanted to say from some of the feedback here, regardless, as Marin as a whole and whatever regulations may be considered, there have been concerns, whether it comes from hosts or short-term rental guests, about what kind of disturbances are in the neighborhood. That's fine, I understand that. But I think statistically, if we're going to use that at all to bolster any particular variable that would either protect or put more stringent regulations on STRs, is that we present the statistic as far as not incident rate, but rather as a risk statement. Statistically, I think that's important. As a frontline worker, there is domestic violence in Marin that's healthy, and it happens. So when somebody wants to cite how many police reports and sheriff reports there have been, I can tell you, being a frontline worker and in conjunction with law enforcement here, that there are lots of complaints coming from all different angles, not just from short-term rentals or guests coming from out of the area or within the larger Bay Area, that contribute to those statistics. So I think we need to look at short-term rentals as the relative risk to a community population with those sorts of neighborhood disturbance variables. Secondarily, there was another voice that there is non-investment in the immediate community and maybe a detraction from a tax base perspective on those communities by visitors who may be, not interested in the community or not contributing. Well, I do want to say again, if that's going to be another variable that's cited, which it is often cited, in my opinion, by people who are not supportive of short-term rentals, that we then consider equalizing again the risk factor and not incident factor. There are other subgroups that take part in the life of Marin. There are various bicycle coalitions from all over the wider Bay Area that swoop in, for instance, during the weekend and create traffic and wear and tear and clog, but they also contribute to the tax basis, but then they leave for the weekend. And there isn't investment necessarily ongoing in our schools or our health and safety or other infrastructure. So I just want to make sure that if we're really looking at some variables to bolster this argument in one way for regulations or not, that we look at other subgroups in comparison based on those very variables. And that gives us information, really, honestly, statistically, what the impact is on community and the population. That is actually statistically a more accurate picture of how much STRs as a statistical subgroup is actually impacting the community, or we find out actually really not. And so therefore, I'm not for those gripes or not for those gripes. I'm just after good mathematical statistical analysis of relative risk comparing subgroups that are similar in their impact on a community. And that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you. And thanks for coming back on so that we could get your comment and hear what you had to say. So now I'm seeing that we've got repeat folks, and I want to be respectful of other people's time. So I'm hoping that we can make our comments quick and short. So Randy, if you'd like to come back and say your final comments.
I put my hand back down because it wasn't all that important, but I just wanted to reiterate what other people have said about your statistics. At 84% in Dillon Beach, I can tell you we've been doing this for 20 years. 50% is a very good normal year for houses. Once we achieved last year 83% on a house, one time because of COVID, and it was rented like crazy. But under normal times, 50% is going to be your number that is a high number for most vacation rentals. We do have a few that can exceed that, but wanted to make sure you're aware of that. And I promised my wife I would mention that when I was talking about vacation rentals using more water, it's then houses that are vacation homes that aren't used as much, but also we take dramatic steps to try to reduce water consumption with low flow shower heads, toilets. We have some houses with large tubs that we've disconnected the water to so that people can't, fill a large bathtub. We even have some houses that have disconnected and locked away washing machines so that people can't use them. So, we're trying to do our part for that. And I just want you to know that if you give us a situation that needs attention, we'll work with you to try to find solutions and make it better for everybody, including our neighbors. And just wanted to get that out there before the meeting ends.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, we appreciate that.
Will you show up and say that if we propose regulations that include mandatory restrictions and measures on water use?
Well, what I'll say is we'll do everything we can, but again, if there's a limit to the amount of water available, we'll do our part. But there's putting unrealistic restrictions on, like one of our water companies in Dillon Beach has tried to do, they need to come to the party and really get their act together.
I was just kidding, but I'm just, I think what I was trying to get at is, that as somebody said here tonight, having regulations is a mechanism for letting us address these specific issues, and that's what, that is one important area for us to be thinking about. There's the matter of, I know everybody's feeling like, oh, it's not going to be able to do it at all, or this or that. We're really thinking more. We're thinking about, we recognize and we have heard very loud and clear the value of this land use in a lot of ways. Different kinds of land uses, commercial, residential, institutional, all of that are all subject to different kinds of management. And we need to think about what makes sense for this as well.
Yeah, I would say to communicate with us, why don't you create a forum for our side, which is the management of vacation rentals or vacation rental host, that you reach out to. I'm sure you'd have no lack of volunteers to get our input on this sort of thing and come up with creative solutions for these type of issues as they arise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're definitely planning on doing that. So
my hand's up for that right now. I will be
reaching out, Randy. Yeah, I've already got your contact information, so you'll be on the top of the list.
I'm doing a favor not having a camera on so you see my face, but my hand is up for that. So.
Okay. And then we see a couple more hands up of people who have spoken already. I'm going to ask that if you want to say something else, please put your hand up and be brief, because I think probably everybody's ready for their dinner, although some of you might have been cheating and eating your dinner with your cameras off.
Okay, so then in that case, we've got Anne Marie next.
Thank you. Two quick things. One, if you are forming a task force, I would like to be on your list as well. I'm sure a lot of people on this group will. So if, are you creating a task force?
Send an email at str@marincounty.org. We'll put you on a list. I can't say we can have everybody because ultimately, you know, you have to manage group sizes when you get smaller to have effective communication. But
I will
and there might
certainly
be
send
people
you.
that, but yeah, send me an email, STR, like short-term
And in
rental at
terms of
marincounty.org.
what form it takes, I mean, I think we do want to engage in a more in-depth way with various constituencies. You know, the concept of a task force is something that was put forward in the local coastal plan. It might make sense. It might make sense to have, you know, something that's more focus groups or series of focus groups. And you know, the breadth of the interest might point to that rather than one group, or maybe it's a combination. But Kathleen and I need to you know, kind of consult after all of this and figure out our overall engagement strategy.
Okay, thank you for that. The second one, similar, you're doing outreach to stakeholders. And so certainly the short-term rental stakeholders is an important constituency, which you're hearing from, but I don't think you're hearing from even a fraction of those. I don't think a lot of people are really informed of what's going on at the county level. And so and we've heard from many people not being informed about the moratorium and other things. So in addition to what you're doing to advertise and get people's ideas and input, is it possible for you to send a notice out to everyone who submits their TOT monthly? You certainly have a list. I get my email. I just submitted my TOT today, and prompted by the county on the 1st of every month. Is it possible to use that list to inform all short-term rental owners of potential changes to the short-term rental policy?
Yes, yeah, and we have in the past, but as Sarah noted, we don't have control over everything. Once the mail goes out, and we have to hope gets to you. But we have been doing it. Yeah,
that was the mechanism that was used. It was contacting everybody who was holding a business license. That was used at the time of that was used for the moratorium, and that is absolutely something we'd continue to use.
And you're using it for this specifically? You're using it for the process that you're running right now?
Yes.
No, we didn't. No, not for
these.
This was all electronic. But again, like we said, we've been hearing from folks that they want us to expand our outreach, and we are more than happy and willing to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, and then last but not least, Scott.
Hello again, thank you.
Hi.
Just trying to understand, and if I missed this from the first call last time, apologies, but it's just playing on my heartstrings, the number of people who said that they are either economically damaged because they can't sell their houses for a number and get out of their own houses, or they missed the moratorium, they're not STR approved, and they can't rent their places. I'm just trying to understand what exactly was the emergency that caused the moratorium to go into effect. I don't know that I caught that.
The emergency was emergency ordinance is the term that's used. The moratorium was something that was proposed so that we could address kind of ongoing concerns that we heard from specific communities in West Marin about the pace of change to short-term rental, and also so that we could kind of set a baseline that we could work from on developing regulations. And we have heard very much the issues that came up from people who were not who did not see the materials that we put out at the time that the board was considering the moratorium.
Sorry. Okay, so it's the Board of Supervisors who voted on this, and is
Yes.
that a matter of public record?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the date of that?
May
The first one was May 24th, 2022, and then it went before them in, I want to say July. Let me pull that up. And I heard David kind of want to echo something. So David, why don't you go, and then I'll
And just a reminder, because we do have people who have been hanging in there for now, we're going on hour 3, that we do want to convene a separate conversation for people who have issues around the moratorium, since that's the since we're really trying to focus on the longer term regulations at this point.
And the second meeting was June 21st.
Okay, so the emergency
May 24th
moratorium
and June 21st.
So the moratorium went into place because there was a perception that there's an emergency.
Scott, I'm going to ask you to take this discussion offline. I really want to.
I'm trying to understand I've got 40 people on a group, on an email for this cause, trying to understand exactly what the emergency is. I told that I would get an answer. I'm trying to understand the answer.
My comment is, Scott asked a very reasonable question, which was, what was the emergency? And the question was avoided, and then we were told, like, we're trying to get off the Zoom. And my request is that you would answer the question.
I'll restate that the term emergency is the legal term for the type of ordinance when you pass an ordinance. When you pass a moratorium, it is passed as an emergency ordinance. So that's kind of a government-y bureaucracy kind of term. The situation that existed that got us to where we were recommending that there be a moratorium on short-term rentals was it was twofold. One was that well, actually more than that, it had been way back in 2020, the understanding that we did need to deal with, considering the permitting of short-term rentals was something that had emerged. 2020 was not the right time to be doing that. And so it moved forward. So we didn't address it at that time, but it was something that the supervisors did want us to be diving into at the right time. It emerged that it was the right time because we were getting a lot of feedback and hearing a lot of concerns from individual communities in West Marin, not Dillon Beach, but other ones that the transition of properties to short-term rentals was something that was creating a lot of difficulties and hardships within the communities. We were hearing it from the emergency providers. We were hearing it from the schools. We were hearing it from the affordable housing providers. The other piece of it was that in order to engage in developing regulations, having seen what was going on in other communities, we felt that it would end up with a better set of regulations if we could get a kind of stabilize the condition, get a baseline condition of the operators and of the number of short-term rentals. We knew it would take some time to develop regulations if we were going to do it in an appropriately inclusive way, and we wanted to not have a changing landscape while we did that. We had seen kind of how that went in Sonoma County, where they developed regulations and then kind of everybody ran in to do things right before those went into place, and it really created some problems around the appropriateness of the regulations. And so those were the reasons that we proposed the moratorium at that time, and that we proposed a moratorium at all. And then the board considered it in a public hearing. We, tried to get the information out in every way that was reasonable and doable, and that was something that it is always it's always tricky to make sure people are knowing what they need to pay attention to. Everybody is kind of busy with a lot of things in their lives, and we worked hard to get it to there. So and can I would really ask again that if we want to talk more about the moratorium, can we push this to another conversation?
Yes, when and where is the forum that you ask us to engage and take this offline? Because I'll be glad to do that.
That's something that I need to work with Kathleen on, and look at our schedules and put some dates and think about how to do that and put some dates forward. So I can't set a date right now.
Okay, well, it should clearly be sooner versus later, right?
For sure. Scott, send me an email so I have your email address so that I can put you on our list, and then
I'm on the list.
And we need to engage the Department of Finance in that too. So
but
they'll be there as well.
I'd also be happy to send you the Board of Supervisors meeting information so that if you wanted to share that with other people, you can. So you can.
Kathleen, why don't you put your email address out there for everybody to view?
The chat is not working.
It's str@marincounty.org.
But I can put up the. I'll share the. I can share.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hang on.
And while Sarah's doing that, Jacqueline, do you want to?
Hi.
Share your thoughts.
Yeah. Hi. I was able to join the District 4. I'm also from Dillon Beach, but I've been listening to the comments on this call. And I just wanted to say, I think there's a new emergency in that, this moratorium, I know we're going to have a separate, but this whole topic needs to be discussed. But, stalling it is creating financial hardships for people who need to rent their, houses or are planning to rent their houses. And I don't think enough consideration has been put into that. I know there's been complaints about things, but I think there's been some great examples of different hardships, people wanting to retire, families wanting to sell homes. I know the prices of homes have gone down significantly because they're unable to rent part of it in the unknown. So I just really want you to consider that. This is hurting people's livelihoods. And I just wanted to say that. And I appreciate the opportunity for these forums. And I am on the email list, but I don't remember getting anything recently about this meeting tonight. Maybe it was sent out a long time ago. So I don't know if you could continue to send emails to people so it's a reminder. I think might be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we have no other hands. And we've got the slide showing the contact information. Should you have any questions, want any questions answered, or comments as well, pardon me. And then also the link to our short-term rental webpage, where in the upper right-hand corner, there is a button where you can click subscribe to that page. You'll get added to email list so that when we update the page, you get a notification. When we've got new news to share, you'll get an email about that. So definitely want to remind you all that that's a good place to ensure that you're getting in our communications, but we are also listening to the feedback that we're getting on other ways to reach out. With that, I guess we'll end this meeting, and I look forward to talking with you all in the future.
Thanks, Kathleen. Thanks, everybody.